Attention, everyone. If you would please find your seat, we'd like to begin the program on time. Excuse me, lady, can you see that? Can you see? Okay, everybody ready? We'd like to start at 6 o'clock, and it's now 6:02, so I'm late already. Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody for our 2023 PABI Candidates Forum. My name is Bobby Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of PABI. Again, thanks everybody for showing up. It is being broadcast on YouTube live, as well as when you go home tomorrow, you can watch it again. So may I ask everybody to please rise as we pay honor to our country and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. It's my honor to once again introduce and welcome Reed McClellan as our moderator for the forum tonight. Reed is currently on the board of PABI and served as PABI chairman in 2012. In 2024, next year, he'll be the first chairman of PABI to serve a second term. Reed is a certified financial planner and has been a financial advisor for more than 27 years. 20 of those years has been as an Edward Jones financial advisor here in Belle Chasse. Reed is a limited partner with Edward Jones in Belle Chasse. He has several leadership roles in the New Orleans region. He's also president of the Belle Chasse Lions Club, and he's been the moderator of our PABI debates for many years. Please welcome our moderator, Reed McClellan.
Thank you, Bobby. Being the executive director of PABI for many years, Bobby always does a great job in helping getting these things organized. A lot of times he doesn't get the credit that's due. Let's give him a round of applause just to start, because there's a lot of work that goes into this. So thank you, Bobby. One of the things I like everybody to do, if you recall the past debates that I moderated, it's really such an important thing. Would everybody please pull their cell phones out of their pocket? And would you please silent them or turn them off? As you know, it can be very distracting for the candidates who are up here trying to serve in public service and trying to get their thoughts together. It's obviously very distracting if your phone goes off. So I really, really appreciate that respect. Also, one of the things that I always try to do is something a little bit different. We all know about the right to vote. If you're here, it's because you care. One of the things that I wanted to read is the First Amendment. I don't know how many times you've actually read the First Amendment. Probably some of you, maybe not since you went to school. But the First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Obviously, they knew how to write back then as well. But when we do things like this, I hope everybody realizes that we're one of the few countries in the world that is allowed to do this. And there's many places in the world where when people with opposing views meet each other, it ends in violence. And we live in such a great country, although we have our problems. This amendment to our Constitution, I think, is what really sets us apart from the rest of the world. So I hope that you keep that in mind as we respect the candidates who are attempting to serve this great country. So also a little bit of the ground rules. So most all of the questions, really all of the questions that we asked tonight are 1-minute responses. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but believe it or not, if you took 1 minute to answer any question, it's really plenty of time to get your thought across. So most of the responses will be for 1 minute. Also, we have some yes or no questions. And we're going to see if the candidates can actually just say yes or no to some of these questions. And that's really if we have the time allotted. So it's not really to surprise anybody. It's just going to be very basic yes or no questions about some of the issues that we have. Also, we have a timekeeper, Shoney Thomas. Would you please stand up and be recognized? Let's give him a round of applause. So for all the candidates' benefit, you have 1 minute to respond. When it gets to that 1 minute, he's simply going to hold up a stop sign. Could you show that stop sign? So when you see that, please wrap up the comment that you're making at that time. I don't like when I have to start talking while you're trying to finish your comments. So please, if at all possible, just go ahead and wrap up when you see the stop sign. Before we get started with the state Senate debate that we have here for you tonight, I'd like to introduce a very important person. She is going to be unopposed for her 3rd term as our clerk of court. Please welcome Ken Turledge Vaughn.
Thank you, Reed. And as he said, it's everyone's right to vote. So let me tell you when we will be doing that, which will be on Saturday, October 14th. Early voting is run by the Registrar of Voters, Ms. Debbie Rhodes, and she conducts our early voting throughout the parish. The early voting starts this Saturday, September 30th, and it will run to October 7th. We have 3 locations to conveniently serve you for early voting. Of course, the main one is the Annex building by my office, 301 Main Street, the Freeport building or the Registrar's building in Port Sulphur, and also on Saturdays only, the Davant Community Center in Davant. Those hours are from 8:30 to 6. So if you need any additional information, whether it be on Election Day voting, which my office is in charge of, please don't hesitate to contact me as the Chief Elections Officer for Plaquemines Parish. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, but I do have a very good website that will give you all the extensive information that is needed. And then please, as always, vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So to begin, our first debate is going to be for State Senate. Would our candidates please come up to the stage? Yep, your names. Okay, we appreciate that he's trying to make it. Maybe he's stuck in traffic, but we have to move forward with the debate at this time. So we're on a timeline. Senator Connick, if you would, you have 1 minute for an introduction.
Thank you so much. My name is Patrick Connick. I'm a lifelong resident of Jefferson Parish. I am married to my wife, Rhonda. We have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. I'm an attorney by trade, and I'm a former prosecutor in Orleans Parish. For the last 16 years, I've been in Baton Rouge, and I'm proud of my record. It speaks for itself. I supported law enforcement. I supported the rights of women and children, and I fought for across the board. I did what I needed to do to protect you and your families. This parish is a unique parish. You have many issues. You start out with the mouth of the river with the pogies issue. You have the saltwater wedge issue coming up now. You have the diversion issue. You have the port issue. You have the, the traffic issue. These are all issues that you need to be aware of. I know you're aware of, but you need a leader in Baton Rouge to address these issues.
All right, thank you. Now for a question for you, Mr. Connick. Now that the Belle Chasse Bridge is nearing completion and tolls are scheduled to go into effect in April, we expect a renewed effort to reduce or eliminate these tolls. How would you convince the governor and the legislature that state dollars should be used to buy out the public-private partnership contract? 1 minute.
Before I start, I get that light in my face. Thank you.
Thank you.
The problem with that bridge is that this bridge should not be tolled here. What should be built is the Peters Road bypass. That should be a truck route, and that should be tolled. The toll should be taken off of this bridge. When I was involved in taking the tolls off the Crescent City connection, and when I did that, it was a victory for the people of the West Bank. Currently, there is, when I was approached by Victor Sarsconi and these other Stop the Tolls folks to look at that toll bridge that you guys got and do what I could to, to end it. But then I was told by a councilman in this district to say, it's not your district, stay away, and we'll handle it. Be one of the tolls. So that's what happened. You got the tolls. I think it was a bad deal. I asked for an audit of the system, of the process after the fact, and then it's something that you guys have and you shouldn't deserve. And I will do my best to get rid of it.
Okay, next question. The plight of the local shrimp fishermen has continued to worsen as prices for their catch remain low and costs, particularly fuel, have soared. Much of the blame is placed on the market being flooded with imported shrimp. Many of the measures, such as attempting to ban imports, run afoul of federal trade laws. How would you help our local shrimp industry?
We have to pass laws that will make give power to LDH to inspect these shrimp, test them for what's in them, and if they're bad, get rid of them. These shrimp have all kinds of antibiotics and other chemicals in them that are not good for our health. The Department of Health has to get involved. And we had a law this past session that could have done that, but it wasn't funded, but it was turned into a study resolution. As an attorney, I represent shrimpers. I know the plight of the shrimpers. I know that they cannot, they catch these shrimp, but they can't sell them at the dock because the price is so low. We have to get federal government help to stop the import of shrimp, and we need a Republican president to make that happen.
Okay. Next question. For nearly 20 years, West Bank governing bodies, business associations, and the Regional Planning Commission have all advocated for the completion of the Peters Road bypass and bridge linking industrial corridors of Jefferson and Plaquemines parishes. Phase 1 was completed 12 years ago, but Phase 2 and the bridge project have been dormant. Do you feel this project should be a priority, and if so, how do you plan to get it done?
We need to build that Peters Road bypass. Like I said, we have $17 million set aside in capital outlay for that money, for that project. During the last session and on a few other sessions, the focus has been on this Belle Chasse Bridge, and that was the P1 process with Sean Wilson and Governor Edwards. To make that Peters Road bypass happen, we need to get everybody involved: the new governor, the new legislature, and you citizens to make it happen. Like I said, we have to take the toll off that bridge here because it's an in and out of a home for your cities, for your residents, and then go ahead and put it on the bypass road and get that built. But it's going to take it's a process that we need to get done.
Okay. Next question. One of Plaquemines Parish's greatest assets is the Plaquemines Parish Port. Are you in favor of the port's current pursuit of a container facility? Also, how do you plan to help the Plaquemines Port grow and thrive in the future?
I've been in discussions with the port officials that, number one, we need the railroad to get out of Gretna and go to Avondale. There's some discussion with Union Pacific. That port has a tremendous potential that can be great for this parish. You got to talk about the air cargo also, that potential with adding a new runway at the airbase. That could be a place for air cargo to come in. The LNG plant is critical for this area too. The strength of the port right now is the bulk, the gas, the pipelines, the barges, and the ships. That's the critical. The tough part is getting the railroad, the trains from Plaquemines out into Avenue area, and that's going to be a challenge, but it can be done.
Okay, I see Mr. Kerner has arrived. Same question for you. You have 1 minute to respond. One of Plaquemines Parish greatest assets is the Plaquemines Parish Port. Are you in favor of the port's current pursuit of a container facility? Also, how do you plan to help the Plaquemines Port grow and thrive in the future?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm so sorry I'm late. I had an event that ran a little over. But my name is Tim Kerner. And I'll tell you, the port's one of the biggest issues in Plaquemines Parish. Right now, they are being left out. You have a lot of other ports. And look, I will go backtrack a little bit. Plaquemines Port has more potential. Port has more potential than any other place, any other port in the state of Louisiana. But you have ports who don't want the competition. So they are fighting Plaquemines Parish from having a container port. And right now you had no leadership in the Senate, really in the state, that take control of this and fight for you. There is a massive, massive investment that they're trying to put in St. Bernard Parish. They don't want it. They are trying to extend it. While Plaquemines Port is trying to be lifted up from the ground, they are trying to extend their port to St. Bernard Parish. The residents don't want it. So you need somebody that's going to go up there and say, well, if they don't want it, let's use that investment. Let's send it to Plaquemines Parish. Plaquemines Parish has been left out. They're trying to consolidate all the ports. Yeah, look,
Okay,
I'm
time
going to
is
try to
up.
change the port.
Time is up. Sorry, I'm going to ask that candidates to please have a seat for the remaining questions. As for the benefit of our cameraman, who's doing a great job. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Okay, the next question, Mr. Kerner, you'll go first, and then followed by Mr. Connick. Perhaps the greatest threat to our local economy is the current insurance crisis. Both flood and homeowners' premiums have skyrocketed with no relief in sight. What are you going to do to get this crisis under control?
So our existence, I'm the mayor of Lafitte, and just like Plaquemines, our existence to live here depends on this insurance crisis. So there's a few different things. Like the roof fortified roof program with grants, that's a great idea, and it does help, but it's not enough. There's not enough state money to send grants to every single homeowner to do this. So two things that need to be done. One, we need to create a coalition with every other southern state, coastal state, because the last 5 years, we received the wrath of Mother Nature. But the next 5 years, it could be Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And we can't allow for when someone gets hit to get mistreated by their insurance companies. So we need to create essentially an interstate treaty where if you don't give one of us good rates, then you don't have rates from all of us. And they need that market cap. They need the coastal states. So that's one. Two is some serious tort reform. Not tort reform where you can wave a flag and say, oh, look what I did. We're still 50th in the state in tort laws. We're the most frivolous state in the union. So those are two things we need to address very strongly.
All right, Mr. Connick, you have 1 minute for your response.
Long term is the fortified roof program. We know that the main damage from these hurricanes and storms is from roofs leaking and damaging inside the property. If you have a fortified roof, that won't happen. That system, we funded this past session $30 million in grant money. We got to fund more for that. The other long-term, the other short-term is having insurance companies come in, a diversified group of insurance companies that are solvent. And the current insurance commissioner has worked on that. The new insurance commissioner plans on working on that. We need a summit of everybody involved. This is affecting all the Gulf states. It's affecting you, it's affecting our businesses, it's affecting everyone. And we need to come with a solution to lower our rates so it can be live here and it needs to be affordable.
Okay, thank you both for your responses. The next question, Mr. Connick, you'll go first, followed by Mr. Kerner. As the Mid-Barrett area diversion has broken ground, what is your position on the diversion going forward? And do you feel the mitigation clauses in the current coastal restoration plan is sufficient for the negative impacts the diversion will cause the local community?
I am for the diversion. It's a tough vote. I'm going to be hit by it, but it's fine. I know it's not the political answer, but I feel in my heart it's the right answer. We have to connect the river to the marsh. We have to connect the river to the marsh. Those individuals, those oyster fishermen who are taking a hit, they're on the front line. They're sacrificing their livelihoods for future generations. And that's what we've got to look for, future generations. For mitigation, every year we have the coastal restoration plan. We got to, if they're not being compensated enough, we got to increase. It changes every year, and every 5 years there's a master plan. But I think we see saltwater killing and inside and outside the marsh. We need to get that fresh water in. We got to get the dredging taking place, and a combination is what built this delta we live on, and we got to continue to do that. I know it's not the right thing in this parish, but for a lot of people, some people agree with it. Some people don't.
Okay, Mr. Kerner, you have 1 minute.
Well, look, I'm going to do what's the right thing for this parish. And look, the same Mississippi River that built our beautiful coast is not the same Mississippi River. The levees the Mississippi River levees over the time has created such little sediment in there. What we're doing is we're making ourselves more vulnerable to flooding. We're killing an industry that meant so much, not only to the state, but to the country. So I'm going to go up there and try to fight it. And look, I think that after speaking with a few governor candidates, there's a few that doesn't like it. So I think there's an opportunity. But if there isn't mitigation, I want to hit on that because it's insulting. Right now, dolphins get $60 million, more than oystermen, more than commercial fishermen, shrimpers. Shrimpers specifically, they're getting grants to put bigger freezers where they don't have boats big enough to carry the diesel with those freezers to go out further across the diversion. So that helps them not at all. So if this thing was to go forward and we're unable to fight it, the mitigation needs to be drastically raised. If not, it is a complete joke that's going to kill our industry.
Okay, next we have a set of yes or no questions. So after I ask the question, we'll alternate, and please just a yes or no answer. Number 1, do you support increasing the gas tax to fund critical road and bridge repairs in the state? Mr. Kerner.
No, I do not.
Mr. Connick.
No.
Do you support adding COVID vaccines to Louisiana's mandatory school vaccinations? Senator Connick.
Yes.
Mayor Kerner.
Absolutely not.
Third, as a state senator, would you vote to renew the portion of the state's sales tax that's set to expire in 2025? Mayor Kerner.
No.
Senator Connick.
Repeat the question.
As state senator, would you vote to renew the portion of the state's sales tax that's set to expire in 2025?
No, and I think the answer to the other question
And number 4,
was no.
are you in favor of increasing legislator salaries in Baton Rouge? Senator Connick.
No.
Mayor Kerner.
No, but he voted on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, each of you will now have 1 minute for closing comments. Mayor Kerner, you will go first. 1 minute closing comment. Please remain seated because we got you on the YouTube with the cameras
Sorry about
there.
that.
And smile while you're talking.
Thank you so much. Look, my name is Tim Kerner. I served the people of Jean Lafitte the last 4 years, and I'll tell you, one thing we did was overcome obstacles. We hit by Hurricane Ida, Zeta, our bridge getting hit twice, and I want to do the same thing for District 8. I want to do the same thing for Plaquemines Parish. We are the same people. We have the same issues. You know, y'all have lacked leadership these last 4 years. Y'all haven't had a voice. I'm upset because we didn't receive the leadership I thought we deserved, and we got more than you guys. So I'm in this thing to make a difference for you and your family's lives. And if you give me the opportunity, you will feel the impact because I am in this to make a difference. I am running for the forgotten, and make no mistake about it, Plaquemines Parish, you have been forgotten.
Okay.
All right, I want to correct the statement I made. I am not for mandatory COVID vaccine. I misunderstood the question. There's a constitutional amendment number 2, that is on the ballot that makes it a fundamental right that the government cannot enforce you or cannot prevent you from going to church if another situation comes down. Being that said, this parish is a unique parish. It has many issues. It can't be solved behind a Facebook post and attacks. We got to bring the people together that have the differences, the shrimpers, the diversion, the anti-diversion, come together and sit at a table and let's find a solution to this problem. The pogie fishermen and the recreational fishermen, come and let's find a solution. The traffic, how are we going to come and solve this? You guys are going to have, the first time in many years, one senator that's going to represent you, and I'm going to be that senator. And I promise that I'm going to be here working with you to solve these problems and be your voice in Baton Rouge. I'll be a senior senator up there. I'll have the ability to make a difference, and I ask for your support.
All right, let's give both Patrick Connick and Timothy Kerner a round of applause. Timothy Kerner Jr. Thank you both for attending and for participating. Now, would all the state representative candidates please make their way to the front? All right, we're going to move right along. I thank all of the candidates up here on the stage for taking their seats promptly and being ready to go. For each one of you, and we'll alternate the order as we go through these questions. But to start off, you each get 1 minute to introduce yourself. Shoney's there in the front. Shoney, show them your stop sign again so they can all realize where it's at. Again, please, when you see that, wrap up the statement that you're making. I really don't like when I have to ask somebody to stop. So please keep that in mind. So now you each will have 1 minute to introduce yourself. We will start with Jacob Breaux, Republican from Belle Chasse.
Good evening. My name's Jacob Breaux. I live in Belle Chasse. I work in Belle Chasse. I grew up in Belle Chasse. I'm a practicing attorney for 20 plus years here in Belle Chasse. I've helped out many of you, as you may know, and I think you've been satisfied with the help that I've provided. We decided to run, my wife, I say we decided to run at the end of July. We found while Louisiana is always home and it's a unique place, that it's been much more difficult to live here, especially since Ida. And we've just been frustrated with a bunch of different things. So we wanted to provide you a new choice, a new chance for new leadership here, and I'm that. And I believe my work life experience, my education will help me address significant issues that we face today, namely insurance, our coast. And I'll tell you this, I'm just tired of Louisiana being ranked so low in so many multiple things, healthcare, crime, education, you name it. I'm tired of seeing things like as my neighbors across the street who had a daughter got honors at Topps. She graduated LSU, she gets a job in Dallas. What happens? 6 months, a year later, her parents moved to Dallas. What happens after that? Her grandparents moved to Dallas. So I want to improve that, and I thank you for your time tonight to listen to me.
Okay, next we have Joanna Capella Leopold, Democrat, Belle Chasse.
Is it on? It's on.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Joanna Capella Leopold. I've lived in District 105 my whole life. As you know, I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines. I've lived down the road, I've lived up the road, I've raised our children here in Plaquemines, and I love spending our time at the camp. This is a very important race for one reason and one reason only: the failed leadership from our current state legislator. Failed leadership that over 4 years has managed to pass only 2 bills. Our representative blames his poor record on making leadership mad at him, but as a good legislator knows, you have to work together and cross party lines to get things done. You have to make friends, you have to fight for your district, and you need to bring home what is necessary.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Matt Cormier, Democrat, Belle Chasse. You have 1 minute for your opening remarks.
My name is Matt Cormier. I was graduated from the Spring Hill Jesuit College. I have graduate credits in special education from UNO, advanced language studies from the Universidade Federal in Paraíba, Brazil. I currently have a broad base of support. The AFL-CIO has endorsed me, the Federation of Teachers, the Alliance for Good Government, the NRA, the Louisiana Association of Educators, Jefferson Parish Democratic Executive Committee, New Orleans Coalition, and Louisiana Weekly. I've been a special ed teacher. I've been a science teacher. I've also been an inner city school college recruiter. I hold a 200-ton near coastal captain's license and an AB Unlimited, and I've been a safety manager. And as far as bringing things back to this parish, I've always, fought for this parish. I have a proven record of fighting for this parish when you were bereft of that for 8 years before me. And you can see that on video. You can look up. I have just a proven record. I stand by that. I passed 2 bills and I passed 2 HCRs. One was to make Fort Jackson a national park, and the other one was something that was continuously blocked and getting life-saving devices for the 11 major universities.
Okay, finally, for introductions, we have Donald Valet, Republican, Belle Chasse. Mr. Valet, you have 1 minute for your introduction.
Is it on?
You're on.
I'm Donald Valet. Most of y'all know me being down here with all the council meetings that I've attended over the last 2 or 3 years, as well as I own High Point Shooting Grounds on Walker Road. I've been down here as a sportsman probably going all the way back when we used to hunt and fish stricker, and we used to fish with Charlie for $10 a head. I've enjoyed this place for years. I've been coming down here. I've owned High Point Shooting Grounds for the last 30 years. I participated and brought a lot of business to Plaquemines Parish. We've entertained heads of state, presidents of various companies, and a lot of industry. And we've used it as a business development tool, as I was in the banking business for 22 years, and I was in the ship repair, major ship repair business for years, traveling throughout the world and throughout the United States. We brought a lot of business. I'm familiar with the river. I'm a little disgusted at what's been going on and the underutilization of what's going on in the river. What I'm tired of is the parish electing people that are not qualified. Probably.
Okay, 1 minute is up. So now for your first questions, and then this will go in order. Ms. Leopold first, then Mr. Cormier, Mr. Valet, and Mr. Bro. The question is, now that the Belle Chasse Bridge is nearing completion and tolls are scheduled to go into effect in April, we expect a renewed effort to reduce or eliminate these tolls. How would you convince the governor and the legislature that state dollars should be used to buy out the public-private partnership contract? Ms. Leopold, you have 1 minute.
Well, first off, I want to say how much I appreciate Representative Cormier in conjunction with Senator Connick to get the legislative audit to audit the process, and they had lessons learned. There was no other things that were identified. I think that the council has filed suit against the state in order to get rid of the tolls. I support that if that's what the council wants. At this time, Mr. Cormier had an opportunity to secure funding to pay the tolls down, but he didn't. There was plenty of money flushed in Baton Rouge this year, and he had an opportunity, if he could have worked with other legislators, to get that money secured and have it applied to pay down the toll.
Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute.
Utter nonsense. The fact of the matter is, all right, the contract was signed. It was a failure of representation prior to me getting into office. That contract was signed, I think, in December. I didn't take office until that January. Also, PABI has to take some blame here. They sent a letter asking that the hardworking people of Belle Chasse and Plaquemines be burdened with an unnecessary toll. One of the things people say, oh, well, what about the toll? We should have never had a toll, all right? But if the government or the state governor, if they want to push this P3 thing, I've advised the parish president and certain councilmen, we need to sue the state for retroactive usage fees going back to 1957. That's how P3s work. I understand a lot of people don't understand the way things work. Whatever money we would have gotten, it wouldn't have mattered. The contract still would have made us pay out $800 million. That's how stupid that agreement was. And look, if it's on your blame, pat yourself on the back. I certainly was against it.
All right, Mr. Valle, you're next. You have 1 minute for your response.
Would you repeat the question again?
Yes, sir. Now that the Belle Chasse Bridge is nearing completion and tolls are scheduled to go into effect in April, we expect a renewed effort to reduce or eliminate these tolls. How would you convince the governor and the legislature that state dollars should be used to buy out the public-private partnership contract?
Well, first off, it should never have been done. Unfortunately, our legislators, as well as some of our parish administration, allowed this to transpire. The public did not have a chance to vote on it. They didn't want it, and they didn't want it. And all the last council decided to file suit against state, and all of the people that did get elected agreed with it and filed suit again. We don't think that currently that it's going to pursue or have a reduction in rate. We think it has to come off completely, be removed to it. And it probably needs to be put on the new bridge over at the Peters Road extension. I'm sorry, I thought I saw you raise your hand. Excuse me. I've talked to Connick, I've talked to a lot of people about moving the bridge. We've been back there 30 years. We've watched it when Benny Roussel got $60 million to build the Walker Road Bridge. Where that money went, who knows? But it was diverted over to this bridge. The toll should never have been put on this bridge, and it can be removed. We talked to plenary about buyout, and there is a chance to do that.
Okay. Mr. Bro, you are the final response to this question. You have 1 minute.
Sure, thank you. What we need to do is move forward on this issue. We need to address monies to get, because that contract allows us to do multiple things. We can pay down the toll rate, we can pay down the toll length, we can just buy it outright completely and get the hand-backed option. We need to identify monies to do that. We all know the federal government's put out infrastructure money left and right the last multiple years. On top of that, the state has had surplus for multiple years. We haven't gotten any of that money down here, and the state's projected to have another surplus this upcoming year. We need to go after and do that. We also need to show, look, Plaquemines Parish, we only form 55% of this state representative district, right? We're 23,000 people. We were obviously a guinea pig for this P3 process, and we need to share that story with the rest of the state representatives up there and show them that we did get a bad deal to get state monies to pay this debt down and get rid of this tolls. That's what I would do.
Okay, thank you all for your responses. The next question order will be Mr. Cormier, Mr. Valle, Mr. Bro, and Ms. Leopold. Next question is, the plight of the local shrimp fishermen has continued to worsen as prices for their catch remain low and costs, particularly fuel, have soared. Much of the blame is placed on the market being flooded with imported shrimp. Many of the measures, such as attempting to ban imports, run afoul of federal trade laws. How would you help our local shrimp industry? Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute.
Well, I brought a bill to increase the fines for the restaurants who are, I guess you'd say, cheating, passing off foreign shrimp instead of Louisiana shrimp. We absolutely need to protect them. I heard someone spoke about, with the diversion, how we're giving money for refrigeration for boats. And one of the candidates for governor, his ignorance was incredible. He was like, oh, we're just going to give them this money, and they're going to, and I was like, you've never worked on a boat. Obviously, you don't understand the first thing that goes out is refrigeration. So I think the biggest problem that the seafood, well, the shrimp, as you're talking about right now, is what they're facing with these disastrous diversions, which I've fought from day one.
Okay, Mr. Valle, you have 1 minute for your response.
Reed, that was a little mumbled. Could you repeat your question again, please?
Absolutely. The plight of the local shrimp fishermen has continued to worsen as prices for their catch remain low and costs, particularly fuel, have soared. Much of the blame is placed on the market being flooded with imported shrimp. Many of the measures, such as attempting to ban imports, run afoul of federal trade laws. How would you help our local shrimp industry? 1 minute.
Well, first off, the association and the shrimpers have been taking advantage of what's been out there and asking both the local representatives as well as the governor, and who have just recently addressed the president and has come behind to put this anti-trade aspect of it. There's some federal laws that you're not going to be able to pass by. I'm not an attorney, but it's just not going to get passed. What's going to be done about this is just going to have to be more competitive, get the competition out the picture, and bring our shrimp to market.
Okay, next, Mr. Bro, you have 1 minute for your response.
Clearly, we need to work with our federal delegation to address import issues on shrimp. Additionally to that, we need to empower the Louisiana Department of Health to be able to inspect these foreign shrimp. Obviously, we know our local products better. Additionally, we also need to explore ways to give our shrimpers and our fishermen an opportunity to maybe sell more direct to us. I know I would be happy to see some type of market like you see in West Wego, maybe at the state school or something like that, to where you go buy directly from them, and maybe they can get a better price and compete in a better market. So there's different avenues here that we need to explore, and we need to explore them all for the betterment of our commercial fishing industry.
Okay, and final response for this question, Ms. Leopold. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I really enjoy listening to the shrimping market. That is a very good concept. But when the market's flooded, it won't work. We all have to band together and work with our delegation to get these imports under control. I really just don't understand how they have made these shrimping prices plummeted to the point that it doesn't pay the fishermen to go out and try and make a living. I just don't understand that. I know that there's a lot of environmentalists or environmental groups that their goal is to keep nets out of the water, and that's really kind of what they're gaining to. And I honestly believe that they're almost to that point. But we really need to get with our federal delegation and work with them to realize that our Gulf seafood is at a critical point that they need their support. So I think bringing it to the federal level has got to be the first and foremost avenue.
Okay, thank you all for the response to that question. For our next question, order will be Mr. Valle, then Mr. Bro, Ms. Leopold, and then Mr. Cormier. Question is, for nearly 20 years, West Bank governing bodies, business associations, and the Regional Planning Commission have all advocated for the completion of the Peters Road bypass and bridge linking industrial corridors of Jefferson and Plaquemines parishes. Phase 1 was completed 12 years ago, but Phase 2 and the bridge project have been dormant. Do you feel this project should be a priority, and if so, how do you plan to get it done? Mr. Valle, you have 1 minute.
I'm having difficulty with the microphone or the speaker where it's mumbled.
Sure.
If you could repeat it again a little clearer. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. For nearly 20 years, West Bank governing bodies, business associations, and the Regional Planning Commission have all advocated for the completion of the Peters Road bypass. Phase 1 was completed 12 years ago, but Phase 2 and the bridge project have been dormant. Do you feel this project should be a priority, and if so, how will you get it done?
First off, I think it should be continued. We're sitting here as a population of 22,000 people, and we have an influx of all of a sudden 7,000 more people added to this. It's almost impossible to get through Plaquemines Parish or Belle Chasse at any given time without a 2-hour delay. My gun club is on Walker Road. I've watched with Mr. Rousseau and the rest of the administration at the time put through, trying to get it through, and got $60 million granted for the development of it. I think what we need to do is to literally build Walker Road, get the grants from it, however long we got to do it. If we got to do another P3, and literally move the toll off of the toll bridge now that's there, and move it on to Walker Road. Pass an ordinance in Belle Chasse that none of the heavy truck traffic can pass through Belle Chasse, and it has to go through Walker Road, diverting all the heavy traffic, and put the tolls on that side where the people won't bear with it.
Okay, next, Mr. Bro, you have 1 minute for your response.
Sure. Peters Road is obviously important for us, not only for traffic reasons, but also to allow more economic development in our parish, which we sorely need. It's been on the topic, like you say in your question, for 20 plus years. I can remember actually when they renewed the tolls on the G&O, that money was supposed to go towards that, and ironically, a new bridge here in Belle Chasse. That was never happened. And it's for this reason why I'm running now, because it seems like Louisiana, we always lose. We do not get what we deserve here in District 105, and I want to do that. But it's ironic that we're District 105, so it takes a majority of those 105 people to approve to get the monies to build that bridge. I believe I have the demeanor and the ability to do that in Baton Rouge and finally get us the monies to build that bridge.
Okay, Ms. Leopold, you have 1 minute for your response.
I fully support finishing the Peters Road bypass bridge. It's been in the works for well over 10 years now. It's a public works bridge, which is why it hasn't been completed versus a P3 project, which is going to be completed in the next year and a half, maybe. I don't feel that, as Mr. Valet suggested, moving the tolls over to that. I don't think that anything needs to be moved any further, but I think that this is a very vital infrastructure improvement that needs to be completed and needs to be completed relatively soon with the LNG plant and all of the trucks and cars coming through for that. I just 100% again support finishing the Peters Road bypass.
All right, and final response for this question, Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute for your response.
What absolutely must be done, and once again, I'm remind the people who are responsible for the Leopold toll tax, we have to break the contract. We cannot move forward on that bridge thanks to that contract that certain people wanted to sign. Congratulations, you put the parish 20 years behind. So we have to break the contract, then we can move forward with that, then we can move forward with the 20-year plan that I have to actually have a true loop around the city, including a bridge across the Mississippi River into Belle Chasse, which is still a possibility. We've discussed it in Transportation Committee, okay? That can happen, but you have to have vision. You can't be sitting on the side. You have to have real experience, and you have to have the background for it. And that's my goal. 20 years down, I might be dead, but most of you might be dead. I don't know. But that's the goal, a bridge and a true loop around the city and a container port on the East Bank.
Okay, thank you all for the responses to that question. Next, our order will be Mr. Bro, Ms. Leopold, Mr. Cormier, and Mr. Valet for this question. One of Plaquemines Parish's greatest assets is the Plaquemines Parish Port. Are you in favor of the port's current pursuit of a container facility? Also, how do you plan to help the Plaquemines Port grow and thrive in the future? Mr. Bro, you'll start. 1 minute.
I'm definitely for port development. Again, we need to succeed here in District 105. We need good economic jobs to keep our people here as well as our kids here. I'm raising kids now, and 10 years from now, I worry that they may not be here. And I know a lot of other people have that concern as well. So this is a major project that we need. And again, it's all about being able to have a strong advocate for you in Baton Rouge. Again, there's 105 in the House, there's 39 in the Senate. It's going to take a lot to compete for funds to get that we need down here. We need to remove the rail out of Belle Chasse, have a direct line down Peters Road. We need to get the Peters Road bypass like we just spoke, but we need innovative ideas. Again, I don't want to end the days of just scaring and being this can't be done. We need to have a can-do spirit, and we can do it. For example, on the bridge, the toll bridge, I've met with some of the no toll guys. If there's an excess windfall, the DOTD can spend that how they wish. That needs to be directed towards projects like that to improve our port. Thank you much.
Ms. Leopold, you have 1 minute for your response.
Can you repeat that for me, please?
Certainly. One of Plaquemines Parish's greatest assets is the Plaquemines Parish Port. Are you in favor of the port's current pursuit of a container facility? Also, how do you plan to help the Plaquemines Port grow and thrive in the future?
I'm 100% in support of the Plaquemines Port. I'm also in support of the cooperative endeavor agreement between Plaquemines Parish, Jefferson Parish, and Gretna, and moving the rail line towards Plaquemines Parish in the back. That way, it'll bring more economic development down here, more jobs, and a way to kind of get things built.
Okay, next, Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute for your response.
I'm absolutely in favor of a container port. In fact, with the Transportation Committee, we went to visit Savannah, and a beautiful big port. We took a little tour, and they're bragging, we have 1,400 acres. I started laughing. I said, I have miles on the East Bank, miles, okay? And what we need to do is entice the railroads to extend that Class 1 railroad on the East Bank south. We can send it all the way down to Davant. We already have a nice wharf down there. I mean, I've talked about what could be done with UBT as far as the cement underneath all that coal. But the place for us to explode, the zenith for Plaquemines will be the East Bank, and it's a container port on the north side. And, we can lure in Amazon. By bringing in the railroads, that'll help us get money, because they get what they want. That'll help us get money to put a federal levy on the East Bank, and that'll protect that. And so that's the key to the biggest amount of jobs that we could grab in District 105, especially for Plaquemines.
Okay, Mr. Valet, you'll wrap up this question with your response, 1 minute.
You're probably going to be surprised at my response, but I'm against it in its current form. When I took over the ship repair business, I took my 3 salesmen and I flew from Loop offshore to Baton Rouge 3 different times. We analyzed every bit of business that comes in this river, where it comes from, who benefits from it, who it adversely affects, and what zoning, as well as what economic benefit that we could generate both for the parish and for our firm. We traveled all over the world. Everybody that comes in this river perceives this river and the port of New Orleans to be one and the same all the way to Baton Rouge. There's no difference. And that's why we're working off an old plan. This thing's been something that's been here before Sandy Sayers. We continue to spend money and going forward without a marketing plan. We had a business plan that was supposed to be employed. Now we have new legislation that's come with 2 new bills to try to bring the ports together to work in unity, not competition. It's like the port across the river in Orleans Parish. My old company used to own that site. We used to lay berth ships there. We've been dealing with that property for 20 years.
Okay, thank you all for your responses. Next question, order will be Ms. Leopold, Mr. Cormier, Mr. Valet, and Mr. Bro. The question is, perhaps the greatest threat to our local economy is the current insurance crisis. Both flood and homeowners premiums have skyrocketed with no relief in sight. What are you going to do to get this crisis under control? Ms. Leopold, you have 1 minute.
I will waste no time trying to get with the new Commissioner of Insurance to work with him and see what ideas he has. I personally would look to coastal and southern states to see what type of practices they implemented, kind of like the fortified roof program, and see if we can bring that into Louisiana and see if that might be something that would help us make the insurances a little bit more affordable. But it is absolutely a problem. I've been going door to door in Jefferson and Plaquemines and Orleans Parish, and the message has been consistent. The number one issue is the insurance.
Okay, next, Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute for your response.
Well, a major problem is a lot of people don't trust the insurance industry. I brought a bill to increase the transparency as far as them providing an upfront initial inspection, and that stalled. But we're going to work with Representative Furman, who was an insurance man, and we're going to work on getting something solved there. As far as the cost, we need to scrutinize greatly this new commissioner when he's talking about a plan of raising insurance 3-4 times in a year. I don't trust him. I voted against an insurance bill about 3 years ago when they said, oh, we're going to bring down your car insurance. And myself and a few other people, no, we don't believe you. And sure enough, they lied to us. So the main thing is just keeping a close eye and trying to keep them in check.
Okay, next, Mr. Valet, you have 1 minute.
Well, many years ago, and you got to go back to my background. I'm a businessman. I dealt with the industry. We could not find workman's comp insurance in this entire state. And what we created, which you see today, is LWCC. When the governor, before he was governor, came to the point of creating this thing, and when he came into governor, set this up. It was a form of self-insurance through workman's comp. I think we need to do the same thing. Mr. Temple came from that industry. He was on their board for years. He understands that aspect of it. We're going to have to look for different sources. What we've been doing is throwing money at the horse, and all we're getting is 2-bit insurance companies that don't stick around for more than 1 or 2 terms, and we get looped into this program. We need to readdress and understand the risk that we're going through at the locations that we have and measure what we can do and find inducing people to come to do business with our state.
Okay, Mr. Bro, you'll be the final response to this question.
Sure, and without a doubt, this is one of the main reasons I decided to run. My experience, my education affords me great expertise in this to address this issue in Baton Rouge. And without a doubt, we need to lessen regulation and make a more competitive market for insurance. But at the same time, we need to make sure it's fair and transparent for the individuals. No one should have to make a claim and then get the adjuster shuffle, as they say. We should have adjusters that are better trained, better prepared, and maybe even have adjuster schools so we have more of them when we do have these disasters strike. Because what happens is somebody will get signed an adjuster and they get a new adjuster 2 or 3 months later and it basically starts over the whole process. We should also look towards tax incentives to have more people in insurance, in the insurance pool across all types of insurances. This is a major issue, a major quality of life issue, because if your insurance costs more than your home note, that just doesn't make sense. We can't have that. This needs to be addressed, and I believe I'm qualified to do such in Baton Rouge.
Okay, next question. The order will be Mr. Cormier, Mr. Valet, Mr. Bro, and Ms. Leopold. The question is, as the Mid-Barataria diversion has broken ground, what is your position on the diversion going forward? And do you feel the mitigation clauses in the current coastal restoration plan is sufficient for the negative impacts the diversion will cause the local community? Mr. Cormier, you'll start. You have 1 minute.
Mitigation is unacceptable. I know there may be a few stakeholders who would be happy with that, but when I fought for the industry. I didn't fight for the people who own the most leases or anything like that, to save, our livelihood for the shrimpers and the oystermen and the crabbers. And so to me, mitigation is a failure. And I truly believe in federal court that this has a chance to be stopped. I don't believe that the Breton Sound will follow through because Mississippi isn't dumb. They're going to put a stop to it. I was fighting Republicans and Democrats, at the Capitol, and it was disgusting to me how many people just really threw Plaquemines under the bus. I would say maybe it was 62 other parishes against us. And so any mitigation is a failure. I believe it can be stopped. God willing, it will be stopped, and we'll save thousands of jobs. We'll save historical minority and fishing communities. We'll save a way of life down here. That needs to happen, and I hope it does.
Okay, next, Mr. Valet, you have 1 minute for your reply.
Well, first off, it's done. It's already started, and unless someone is going to put up a lot of money and file major lawsuits, it's not going to get stopped. So what we need to do is monitor it. When this first was discussed years ago, I started attending most of the CPRA meetings about it. I listened to the various people that were involved in it. I wasn't knowledgeable with it. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a businessman. Is it a good deal? Is it going to do what it was supposed to do? Is it going to provide flood protection first? I can't tell you. I'm not sure yet. I don't believe all the things that everybody threatens about it, how bad it's going to be, but I can't believe it's going to happen as quick as they all say it's going to be. I think we need to monitor it, pay attention to what we're doing, and we also need to start doing some more dredging and build some more protection.
Okay, Mr. Bro, your response, 1 minute.
Yes, the size and scope of the diversion creates way too many variables. The mitigation funding is not proper at all. They don't even know the full extent of what the damage may be. Unlike most politicians, I actually have experience in coastal restoration. If you live in Jesuit Estates or by the Ollie Drive pump station, there's a 330-acre tract back there. It was open water. Over 10 years ago, we went through a 5-year permit process from federal and state agencies, more than 12 different agencies. It was a monster project. It took 5 years to permit, but it only took 4 months to build. I understand what a 404 permit is. I understand what a Section 10 permit is. I can help address these issues. The diversion is too big in size. Dredging is much more proven and predictable. That should be the focus. We need to look at the overall design of it. Maybe minor diversions with much more focus on dredging, which is proven. We would know where the impacts are. We could address the impacts better. And that's what needs to be done and would be more immediate as well. But what we need to do is build consistency in Baton Rouge, maybe taking those legislators from Shreveport and whatnot down here to tell our story.
Okay, now we will move to a few yes or no questions. And again, your reply should be a yes or no.
You didn't
I'm
answer.
sorry, Ms. Leopold, I apologize.
That's okay.
You were actually on my list right here, and I didn't check you off yet. So,
That's okay.
all right, Ms.
So-
Leopold, do you need me to reread the question?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. As the Mid-Barataria diversion is broken ground, what is your position on the diversion going forward? And do you feel the mitigation clauses in the current coastal restoration plan is sufficient for the negative impacts the diversion will cause to the local community?
No, I do not. I do not support this particular project whatsoever. For years and years, I have attended the coastal restoration or the CPRA meetings where you would go and listen to them for 2 hours speak. If you had a question, you had to write it down. They never answered any questions. You had to wait for an email response. You never got an email response. We patiently waited for the EIS to come out. Once the EIS came out, I went ahead and voiced my frustrations and comments and have it down on as part of the record. This project is way too big, and it's just flawed in design. There's no back floodgate, and it's just too big. What they need to do is scale it down in conjunction with dredging and then go from there. But when they do these dredging projects, you also have to finish the project, as in rocking or planting the vegetation.
Okay, and again, my apologies there. Thank you for speaking up, getting your turn there. All right, so now we have some yes or no questions. I'm just going to go down the line. As I call your name, please answer yes or no to the following questions. Question number 1, do you support increasing the gas tax to fund critical road and bridge repairs in the state? Mr. Bro.
No.
Mr. Cormier.
Nope.
Ms. Leopold.
No.
Mr. Valet.
Yes.
Number 2, do you support adding COVID vaccines to Louisiana's mandatory school vaccinations? Mr. Valet.
No.
Ms. Leopold.
Absolutely not.
Mr. Cormier.
No.
Mr. Bro.
No.
Number 3, as state senator, or I'm sorry, as state representative, would you vote to renew the portion of the state's sales tax that's set to expire in 2025? Mr. Cormier.
Yes.
Mr. Bro.
No.
Ms. Leopold.
Yes.
Mr. Valet.
No.
Okay, final yes or no question. Are you in favor of increasing legislators' salaries in Baton Rouge? Ms. Leopold.
No.
Mr. Valet.
No.
Mr. Bro.
No.
Mr. Cormier.
No.
Okay. Next is your closing comments. You will have 1 minute for closing comments. Mr. Valet, you will go first. You now have 1 minute.
As I stated earlier when I first addressed you, I've been a businessman for over 30, 40 years. I've been involved in Louisiana. I've been on probably 10 or 15 boards throughout the state, housing, finance, if you want to call it the dilapidated housing, improving programs like this, as well as insurance, as well as finance. I've served in the state as appointed by the legislature through the House of Speaker's office on 2 different occasions. I've served for many, many years in addressing people about housing. I deal with the Landlords Association in the city of New Orleans. I have 7,580 landlords in our group, and we deal with housing in the city of New Orleans. So far in Plaquemines Parish, I have stayed out of politics until this year. I've just got tired of us electing people that don't know what they're doing, and have your best neighbor you elect and friends. We need to stop doing that. We need to hire professionals.
Okay, Ms. Leopold, 1 minute for your closing comments.
Well, I want to thank PABI for hosting this event. And tonight, y'all didn't hear as much rhetoric as I heard last night from the opponents concerning my husband and his record as a litigator or a legislator. But I just want to remind everybody that it's me that's running against my opponents. And my record of community involvement and community service stands for itself. And that's what I'm here to do. I want to move it forward to Baton Rouge and to represent the constituents' needs. I want to be able to hold town hall meetings. I want to be able to be open for constituents to come to me or to my office to find some type of peace of mind of what they're looking for, any kind of problems that they may have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cormier, you have 1 minute for your closing comments.
Well, I know I'm addressing probably a majority of Republicans. I just want y'all to know when the Democrats approached me years ago and said, you know, can you run for the seat? I said, fine, but you're not going to mess with me on 3 issues. I'm pro-life, I am pro-Second Amendment, and I'm pro-religious freedom. And my votes prove that across the board. And not many people get the AFL-CIO endorsement along with the NRA endorsement. Very happy with my endorsements, Federation of Teachers and all that. Some issues people talk about, you know, not bringing back that much money. Well, $25 million for a new ferry, $1 million for improvements at the West Point Lahash ferry landing, $500,000 for a new ambulance and chest compression device, $100,000 for this school, athletic and band departments, $100,000 for South Plaquemines, $100,000 for Phoenix, $200,000 for the elementary schools, athletic and playground equipment, and also, you know, people talk about connections. Well, there was an issue about a tax issue that came up. I get a call from one of the former council members. I called up the governor. He didn't call me back. He immediately answered the phone. Problem solved. We saved $3 million. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Bro.
Again, thanks for having this tonight. Thanks for having us here. It's been a great experience. But what I want to do is improve our life here in District 105, in our state. Things are bad. There's a malaise on people here. They're not happy to live here. We feel like we're not getting what we deserve. I believe I have the demeanor and the ability to go to Baton Rouge and form strong relationships to get us certain projects or get us better projects to improve our life. I'm definitely not running for the title. I'm definitely not running for the salary that it pays. I'm running for you. I want you to expect more. Because we deserve better and we can do better. Please vote for me, and please consider the qualifications that I have, the education that I have, and the issues that we face, such as insurance, the coast, business development. These are all things that I have significant experience in. Please consider that and vote for me.
All right, let's give a big round of applause to all of our candidates, please. I want to thank each of you for maintaining the time you are allotted and for your participation. You're now excused. Would our candidate for assessor please come up? All right, next is the Plaquemines Parish Assessor debate. We have 2 candidates, only one appeared this evening, so we're going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to allow Ms. Taylor, she's going to have 2 minutes for some opening remarks, and then I'll have a few questions for you. So your 2 minutes for your opening remarks is now started.
All right. Thank you guys for having me here, and more importantly, thank you for being here. My name is Sarah Taylor. I've been married to Brandon Taylor for 23 years, and we have 2 amazing daughters. I'm a state-certified real estate appraiser and a certified Louisiana assessor. I'm a member of the International Association of Assessing Officers, as well as the Louisiana Assessors Association, where I serve on the Oil and Gas and Watercraft Committee. When I announced my intention to run for this position, I got asked very often, what exactly do you do? So I'm going to take this opportunity to highlight a few of the responsibilities incumbent upon the assessor. We're tasked with valuing everything from security cameras at industrial sites to the watercraft that enter the parish on January 1st each year. We value the docks that receive the cargo, the inventory in the tanks, and we value the land and all structures within the parish lines. These properties are valued and assessed in accordance with the Louisiana law and the rules and regulations of the Louisiana Tax Commission. We're responsible for updating the ownership of each of the 12 to 1,500 conveyance records filed annually in the Clerk of Court's office. We're tasked with completing a parish-wide reassessment of all real property every 4 years, and I assure you this is no small feat. We ensure that each new residence built is added to the tax roll, and every new business that enters the parish is accounted for. We work with each taxing body, such as the Sheriff's Office, the school board, the government, and the medical center to ensure they adopt their allowed millages each year. We do this with only 6 small but loyal team members. So thank you.
Okay. If elected, what advancements or changes do you intend to make to the assessor's office?
Currently, we have some software limitations. As far as mapping goes, we can't make any changes in the office. I'm already working with our GIS consultant to allow our staff to have the capabilities in-house to make some changes. We won't be able to make geography changes in the office, but we're hoping to make some advancements to our mapping. I would also like to offer the staff the opportunity to attend more classes and workshops to advance themselves.
Okay. Reassessment will be required during your term in office. How do you intend to accomplish this equitably?
Okay, so this is my 3rd or 4th reassessment since being there. So our process is to track every sale within the parish within the time frame mandated by the state. We separate each sale into similar and competing market areas. We determine what the range is, so the maximum sale price, the minimum sales price, the median, and the mean. That gives us the information we need to apply the price per square foot or the value assigned to those properties.
Okay. Now you will have 1 minute for any closing comments you would like to make.
The position requires hard work, dedication, and most importantly, experience. I've been in the business of appraising properties for more than 2 decades and been a part of the assessor's office for over 13 years. Before I joined the assessor's office, I learned that profession from some of the best appraisers in the area. At the assessor's office, I learned from 2 of the most respected officials to serve this parish, Bobby Gravelay and Belinda Hazel, both of whom are endorsing me in this race. I've had a great relationship with the staff with whom we share a mutual respect and a mutual vision for how to best serve our local and corporate citizens. For all of these reasons, I humbly ask for your support to continue as your assessor, Sarah Taylor.
Ms. Taylor, thank you for your participation. Please give a round of applause. Okay, now we ask that our candidates for sheriff please make the way to the front of the room. We'll get set up and we'll immediately All right, moving right along, we will now go to our sheriff's debate. We have 2 candidates, our incumbent, Jerry Turlidge, Republican Belle Chasse, and his opponent, Lonnie Greco, Republican Belle Chasse. So each of you will have 1 minute to introduce yourself and explain to us why do you think you are the best person to be sheriff. Mr. Greco, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
Good evening. My name is Lonnie Greco. My wife Jody and I have been married for 25 years. We have a daughter together named Catherine. I got a son from a previous marriage. As I walk through this parish during this election year, I've got to listen to the stories of people who are suffering, what's happening to them. People are hurting. We have thefts on the rise. We have narcotics on the rise. And we have people who are really hurting out there and their families don't know which way to go. Well, I can tell you the critical issues that are facing the sheriff's office right now. You have a large turnover since the second year he's been in office. And why that turnover has been is because of his politics. When you run for sheriff, you got to do your job. Sometimes it steps on toes. And we're not trying to be hard about that. The bottom line is you cannot go out there and sit there and, how you say, excuse me.
Okay, Mr. Turlidge, you have 1 minute for your opening remarks. Why do you think you are the best person to be sheriff?
Good evening. I'm your sheriff, Jerry Turlidge. Happily married to my wife, Poppy. We have 6 children and 1 grandbaby and 2 on the way. I have 33 years experience, started at every level: corrections, patrol, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, and finally sheriff. I served 10 years on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. I'm currently the 2nd vice president of all 64 sheriffs. So my opponent's platform, I'm familiar with it. I've seen it 7 times: 1999, 03, 07, 11, 15, 19, and I guess he drove down from Mississippi to run this year. In 2012, we got to experience it. And how did that go, guys? It didn't go good. The department was embarrassed. I think our public was embarrassed. It's one of the reasons I ran for sheriff. And what I did to clean it up, I surrounded myself with a professional, diversified, experienced staff. We average over 30 years experience.
Okay, for the next question, Mr. Turlidge, you will go first, follow up by Mr. Greco. The question is, fentanyl has been killing people as it has entered the drug trafficking world. What will you do about this crisis, and how do you intend to fight the drug problem we face in Plaquemines Parish? Mr. Turlidge, you have 1 minute.
We got all our officers trained in Narcan. We've administered it over 100 times. It is a play. Look, I go to leadership across the nation. I've gone and sat at the FBI, Law Enforcement Executive Development. I went to the National Sheriff's Institute. This is a national problem, but we kind of got ahead of it, and we foreseen it, so we wanted to get our officers trained in Narcan, and we have administered it. Some of the things, we did our narcotics unit with a 3-prong approach, which is street interdiction. We do undercover agent buys, and we work with our multi-jurisdictional task force. We have people assigned to the FBI, the DEA, the Gretna Task Force, and we are knocking it out the park on the dealers of this crime. Whether it's using sophisticated techniques with our federal and state partners or not, but we are doing a good job of knocking it out.
Okay, Mr. Greco, you have 1 minute for your response.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear, like he says, that he's doing such an amazing job. Well, let me tell you something. People are hurting, and as I travel this parish, especially on the lower end, all I hear is how he protects drug dealers. And he even had one that made a comment to one of the citizens that said, if y'all elect me sheriff, y'all can go back to doing what y'all was doing before. And that's exactly what they were doing, is selling drugs. He protects them. People are hurting. We got more ODs than you can shake a stick at right now. Since 2019, we sitting there and had over 40 deaths from drug overdoses. And you got citizens who are just sitting there hurting. Their families are hurting. Their kids are hurting. You got people who are, when I come into contact with them, how they talk about that their own child that's pregnant is on crystal meth addicts. So I don't know what kind of job you think you're doing, but I can tell you right now, it's not happening because it's affecting the whole entire parish. And I know the whole world is seeing it right now, but this parish is quite and small as it is. When I was sheriff, we handled the business.
Okay, for the next question, Mr. Greco will go first, followed by Mr. Turlidge. Do you feel there is sufficient revenue to operate the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office? Mr. Greco, you have 1 minute.
Yes, there is sufficient revenue that can operate the sheriff's office. I just know right now a lot of people are hurting, and for the last 2 years, I know that he went ahead and rolled the millage forward, and this year it's going to be rolled forward again, but it's not going to come out till after the election. But the thing is, we've done more with less people than he's got right now. He's got 290 employees, and he's going around telling people that he don't have enough deputies to go ahead and put in the neighborhoods and patrol. I did it all with 225. We covered the whole entire parish.
Okay, Mr. Turlidge, you have 1 minute for your response.
I'd like to see our revenue increase for our officers. St. Bernard gave raises, Jefferson Parish gave raises. It is very, very tough to recruit police officers nowadays. Y'all see it on the news. It is very, very difficult to recruit police officers. It's difficult to get jobs anywhere these days, to get people to pass a drug test, psychological, the whole 9 yards to be a police officer. It is very, very difficult to hire right now, to be honest with you. But we're doing it. And I'm going to tell you, my guys bust their butt, and we have a historic low crime.
All right, next question, Mr. Turlidge first and Mr. Greco second. What will you do as sheriff to keep morale high among your ranks?
Well, I think leading by example. My staff, you see a lot of my staff in the room tonight. They're very engaged with their guys. They're very, we lead from the front. So we go out there with our guys and perform with them. So we don't ask them to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves.
Mr. Greco, you have 1 minute. What will you do as sheriff to keep morale high among your ranks?
Well, the first thing you do is you unhandcuff your guys to let them do the job that they were hired to do. You don't sit there and go out there and tell them that they can't do their jobs when they're trying to do it. It makes them upset. That's why you got such a large turnover. And to begin with, you got a list out there, from what I understand, it's a club, that when the people get pulled over and their deputies trying to do the jobs, they tell them, go check the radio, I'm on the list, you're gonna have to go ahead and let me go. And if you don't believe me, go ask Dave Satanovich. He told one of the citizens that you gotta join the club, you gotta pay your dues. And same thing with Wayne Rollo. Wayne Rollo gets pulled over twice, and he's got citizens in his car, and he says, go check the list. So when you keep battering your officers and not letting them do their jobs, guess what? You're gonna knock morale down. It's hard to keep your guys going if you're gonna keep constantly handcuffing them to do their jobs. We got some serious people out there who we know nothing about that is inundated in this parish now. I wanna say about 5,000 to 6,000 people from all over the United States that's coming here for this job. And we don't know who they are. So when our guys are doing their jobs, you need to support them.
Okay, next question, Mr. Greco will go first, followed by Mr. Turlidge. Besides the questions I have already asked you to comment on, what do you feel are the other priorities you will address as sheriff? Mr. Greco, you have 1 minute.
Well, the biggest problem we got right now is traffic, especially in the Belle Chasse area. I mean, people are getting very frustrated with the traffic that's happening. I mean, and I got a feeling once that bridge is completed, as soon as you get over there, even though the bridge is not gonna go ahead and open up, you got 5 or 6 traffic lights on the north side of that bridge. And I can tell you, we're still gonna have a problem with that. But I need to make sure that we put our guys back on patrol in the neighborhoods, put them on beats, because of this high traffic volume that we have, they get quicker response times. And I'm not gonna be a type of guy that's gonna sit here and cover up for anybody else that's doing something wrong. Just the same way like y'all do when you go ahead and protect your friends and your families, especially when it comes to when you had a lady who goes and says that she was sexually battered by 2 of your employees, and you covered it up. And they brought it to you and the chief's attention. And she worked for you, the mother-in-law, and you told her the best thing for you to do is keep your mouth shut or you'll lose your job. She had 5 years to go, and she went ahead and retired in 4.
Okay, Mr. Turlidge, you have 1 minute for your response.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Besides the questions that I've already asked you to comment on, what do you feel are other priorities you will address as sheriff?
Well, obviously traffic. We actually got in front of it. We went and spoke to the LNG for them to stagger shifts. We talked to we had a meeting with the Coast Guard and asked them to lift the curfew from 3:30 to 5:30. We actually got that lifted to 7 o'clock. You'll see my guy working the light at 4:06. We have 12 guys on details to assist the public, make sure the public's safe, make sure the LNG workers are getting in and out and not causing any problems for our constituents. Also, guys, take a look around us. In Jefferson Parish, Orleans, St. Bernard, it's on fire. If you look at the violent crime tracker, but look at ours. When you get inside our border, y'all go take a look, research some of this information. I'm not gonna listen to some of this nonsense. Go look for yourselves, and you'll see it. So I put a substation on 406. I put people on 23. They have to pass our guys to come in here and commit crime in Plaquemines Parish, and it ain't happening. Check our UCR numbers.
Okay, for the next question, we'll start with Mr. Turledge, followed by Mr. Greco. If elected, what 2 changes would you implement immediately? Mr.
What 2
Turledge.
changes? Well, I do think we need to keep educating our public and our seniors, but and our youth, and kind of work with community engagement with them. Just our youth about drugs. We have school resource officers. We have 4 of them trained, guys. We wanted to put them in our schools, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. It didn't work out. So we still have 3 school resource officers. I would like to see that done. Is one of my top priorities. But I want y'all to know, we did have some threats at our schools. Our response time was within like 2 minutes. We cleared one school, then miscommunication gets going on, and they called in an intruder at another school, and we cleared that within minutes. So people were wondering, would y'all respond like some of these other agencies that didn't respond, or would y'all be on it? Guys, it took minutes, and we cleared 2 schools, unprecedented. So school resource officers is one of them, and I'd like to get my deputies' pay up as another.
All right, Mr. Greco, you have 1 minute for your response. To repeat the question, if elected, what 2 changes would you implement immediately? I think I lost my mic.
My first 2 changes would be accountability and transparency. Because when I was sheriff, we made sure that we kept the public informed of what was going on, no matter what it was. It's not like what it is today. There's a lot of things that's going on in this parish that you know nothing about. Nothing. They hide it. They sweep it under the rug. That will not continue while I'm sheriff.
Okay, next question, Mr. Greco will go first, followed by Mr. Turledge. What additional measures will you take to reduce crime in Plaquemines Parish? Mr. Greco, 1 minute.
Well, the number one thing is make sure we got high visibility like we had before when I was sheriff. We had people that was designed for the neighborhoods, for high visibility, to deter crime. We even had a traffic division that was on the highway. Now that's almost kind of like non-existent. You don't see that many deputies that's out there doing traffic control. I see them cutting grass. I mean, they do a pretty good job about that instead of using the inmate labor to do it. But yeah, those are the 2 things, is make sure high visibility, and don't just play show and tell. Actually get out there and let the guys do their jobs and put them in beats where they belong at so you can get faster response times, and go out there and start talking with your community and get involved in them. Because I'm gonna tell you something, I know as a patrol officer when I was there years ago, I used to sit there and talk to a lot of senior citizens. You would not believe the information you get from them guys, because they're home at all times and they see what's going on in their communities.
Okay, Mr. Turledge, you have 1 minute. The question was, what will you do? What additional measures will you take to reduce crime in Plaquemines Parish?
I think keep communication open with our public. I know we have our SALT program. I know we have our junior deputy program. I know we have our young Marine program. I think information from your public is key to make sure they see something, say something. Guys, we also have 47 crime deterrent cameras. We are using technology to its fullest. We have every entrance covered. We have every area covered. I'm going to keep enhancing that. Really, I would love to have a crime deterrent camera on every block, on every neighborhood, so we'll know exactly who did the crime if they go in your neighborhood or if they go. And we're doing a pretty good job of it now. We're gonna keep looking for grants, and we're going to keep putting protection devices for our public.
Okay, now we'll have a few yes or no questions. Please keep your responses to a yes or no. Question number 1, are you for body cameras for all police officers? Mr. Turledge.
Yes.
Mr. Greco.
Yes.
Second question, do you support speeding cameras for the streets of Plaquemines Parish? Mr. Greco.
No.
Mr. Turledge.
No.
Third, do you believe Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office employees should be residents of Plaquemines Parish? Mr. Turledge.
No.
Yes.
Mr. Greco. Yes. Okay, thank you for that. Now we will have closing comments. Each of you will have 1 minute. Mr. Greco, you will go first. You have 1 minute for your closing comments.
You want me to go first or he go first? I went first.
You go first.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, all I can tell you is this. During this process that we've gone through the last 5.5 months, as me walking around the parish, seeing what's going on and hearing the details and horror glories of what happened with our citizens, is that I'm asking you, do you want a sheriff that's going to be a sheriff and do his job, or do you want a politician? Since I've been, when I was sheriff in 2012 to 2016, you can say all you want about embarrassment. We done our job. We brought crime to its lowest levels of 17.3% in the 4 years that I was there. We've accomplished a lot in my 4 years, but I did not sit there and not tell the public exactly what's going on. And I do not condone when you got deputies that are out here gonna sit there and falsify affidavits, you're gonna falsify police reports, and then you're gonna cover up. That is very bad situation when you're gonna sit there and tell these guys, or condoning it, that it's okay for you to break the law, but I'm gonna enforce the laws on our communities and when they break the law. Thank you.
Mr. Turlidge, you have 1 minute for closing comments.
First off, thank y'all for having me. Guys, I'm the second vice president of the sheriffs that's elected by sheriffs. I do that for y'all. I want to represent my community the right way. We have very, very low crime. And I thank my dispatcher. I want to thank the men and women of the sheriff's office. I think our dispatchers, our patrol unit, credit to that. Our detective bureau has an 85% solve rate. Go look at the national average. It's almost double the national average, which is phenomenal. We have a kick butt narcotics unit. You'll see them. It's working. On top of all that, you won't find a more community engaged sheriff anywhere in this state. And I challenge you to find a more community engaged sheriff anywhere in this country. I love my job. I love what I do. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna protect you, your family, your business, and your homes with everything I've got. So I humbly ask for your support October 14th. Thank you.
Okay, let's give both of our candidates a round of applause, please. Before we close, there's a few people that we have to thank. Some of you may not realize there's a lot of work that goes into putting this together. We don't always do it perfectly. We work very hard to try to be fair and balanced and ask great questions. So a lot of work goes into it, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank certain people. First of all, for our interim superintendent, Dr. Shelley Rich, for the use of the facility. Thanks to Ms. Heather Lawson, principal of Belle Chasse High School, for the use of the auditorium. Thank you to Mr. Seth Shepard for coordinating the schedules of the auditorium. Thanks to Mr. Chad Arborough and Arlen Dardar with Bayou Events LLC for the sound, lighting, and broadcasting on YouTube. They do a fantastic job. Thanks to Shoni Thomas, our timekeeper. Thanks to PABI Executive Director Bobby Thomas and the Forum Committee. They got together a few times and spent a few hours of their time and effort to help come up with the format and the questions. Thanks, of course, to our audience and the audience on YouTube. Thank you to all the candidates that are not only attending tonight, but for your willingness to offer yourself for public service. Thanks all for attending. Have a safe trip home. Don't forget early voting September 30th to October 7th and Election Day, October 14th. Have a good night.